natural resources. Contents of the chapter. So we'll complete this chapter in 6 parts. First, we'll see introduction, which contains the biosphere, the breath of life, air, water, a wonder liquid, mineral riches in soil, biogeochemical cycles, and then the ozone layer. Introduction. Factors for life on Earth. So we require ambient temperature, water, and food to live on Earth. So there are two types of resources, abiotic and biotic, two types of natural resources on the basis of origin. So abiotic resources are the land, water, the air. The resources on the earth and the energy of the sun are basic requirements of all life forms of the earth. Right? Land is the basic requirement, water is basic requirement for drinking, air is the basic requirement as oxygen for breathing, and also energy of the sun, heat energy is required. So these are the basic requirements of all life forms of the earth on the earth. Parts of the biosphere. The outer crust of the earth is called the lithosphere. Water covers 75% of the earth's surface, and this part of the earth's surface is known as hydrosphere. The whole earth is covered with a blanket called the atmosphere. The life supporting zone of the earth where atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere interact and make life possible is known as biosphere. An ecosystem is a community of living organisms interacting with one another and their non-living environment with a particular area within a means ecosystem is a community of living organisms interacting with another non-living organisms or another living organism within a particular area. Coming to the breath of life, air. Uses of air. Carbon dioxide constitutes up to 95 to 97% of the atmosphere on Venus and Mars. On Venus and Mars. Okay? Eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Eukaryotes, the cells or organisms who have developed nucleus, and prokaryotes are not developed nucleus. Organisms whose cells have non-developed nucleus are known as prokaryotes. Similarly, the opposite is eukaryotes. Organisms whose cells nucleus is developed is known as are the organisms are known as eukaryotes. These both need oxygen to break down glucose molecules and get energy for their activities. This results in the production of carbon dioxide. Right? We humans are eukaryotes and we need oxygen to break down glucose molecules and get energy for our activities. And we release carbon dioxide. This results in the production of carbon dioxide. Combustion is also a process in which takes place with the consumption of oxygen, which takes in oxygen, and the related production of carbon dioxide, which takes in oxygen and releases carbon dioxide. Amount of carbon dioxide is fixed in the air in two ways. First is green plants convert carbon dioxide or CO2 into glucose in the presence of sunlight. Means green plants which have chlorophyll convert carbon dioxide to glucose in the presence of sunlight. Many marine animals use carbonates dissolved in seawater to make their shells. The role of atmosphere in climate control. The atmosphere prevents the sudden increase in the temperature during the daylight hours. During the night, it slows down the escape of heat into the outer space. On the surface of moon with no atmosphere, temperature ranges from minus 190 degree to 110 degree. So these are the temperatures wherein human can't live only properly. So this is the blue layer is our atmosphere. So our atmosphere also saves us from the sun's ultraviolet rays, which are harmful when they get directly entered into the on the earth. But the atmosphere is preventing them from directly getting on the surface of the earth, and they absorb the heat and give out the heat in a protective manner to the earth. The movement of air, winds. Land gets cooled and heated very quickly. Sea gets heated and cooled very slowly. Means what? Land gets cooled and heated very quickly. Means when it is day, the land will get heated very quickly. And when it is night, the land will get cooled very quickly. Sea gets heated and cooled very slowly. Means when it is day, means in the morning time, the sea is still cool because of the night. And coming till the afternoon or evening time, it becomes hot, and when it's night again, it will still remain hot for some time. Means it will not quickly cool down or heat. Warm air is lighter than cool air because of less density, number of molecules in a unit area. Thus, this causes diffusion. So during the day, warm air of the land, see, during the day, this side, left side, the warm air of the land rises up. See the red arrows? Creating a low pressure area on the land. There is a low pressure area on the land. Thus, cool air from the sea blows to the land. Cool air from the sea blows to the land. Because air will move from high pressure area to low pressure area. So here on during the day, low pressure area is on the land because warm air from the land goes outside or goes on the sea because it is lighter, and cool air will come down and form a layer on the land. So this is known as sea breeze, and that's why we get cool air when we go near the coastal areas. And during the night, coming to land breeze, during the night, warm air of the sea, as we know, sea doesn't cool very quickly or doesn't gets heated very quickly. It is a slow process for the sea. So therefore, warm air of the sea rises up. During the night, sea is still warm. So warm air from the sea or the ocean rises up and creating a low pressure area on the sea. So here, low pressure area is on the sea here. So therefore, the high pressure area on the land will push the air to the low pressure area. Thus, cool air from the land will go on the sea. The cool air blows from land to sea. So this is known as land breeze. The movement of air, winds. So this is nothing else but the hydrological or water cycle. Water gets evaporated and then condensation and then forms clouds, and then condensation. Then when condensation happens, after that we have precipitation when the clouds gets heavier, and precipitation again it's a form of rain, in the form of rain, hail, snow, etc. So it will again collect and again evaporate. Now coming to air pollution. What is smog? Presence of high levels of pollutants such as unburned carbon particles or substances called hydrocarbons cause visibility to be lowered. Means we cannot see things that are in front of us, not directly front, but the front buildings and all clearly, especially in cold weather. When water also condenses out of air, this is known as smog. Smog is a visible indication of air pollution. An increase in the content of these harmful substances in the air is called air pollution. And what does these means? It may be any pollutant such as carbon particles or hydrocarbons, etc. Dust particles. So coming to water, a wonder liquid. What is the significance of water? All cellular processes take place in water medium. All the reactions that take place within our body and within cells occur between substances that are dissolved in water. Terrestrial life forms require fresh water for different processes because their bodies cannot tolerate or get rid of the amounts of dissolved salts in saline water. The availability of water, temperature, and the type of soil. The number of individuals of each species that are able to survive in a particular area. So these three factors determine that how many or how much the number of individual of each species that are able to survive in a particular area, the diversity of life in that particular area, and yeah. Now let's see water pollution. The addition of undesirable substances to water bodies is known as water pollution. These substances could be fertilizers and pesticides used in farming, or they could be poisonous substances like mercury salts, which are used by paper industries. These could also be disease causing organisms like bacteria, which causes cholera. The removal of undesirable substances from water bodies. Dissolved oxygen is used by animals and plants that live in water, right? And any change that reduces the amount of this dissolved oxygen would adversely the affect these aquatic organisms. Other nutrients could also be depleted from water bodies. A change in the temperature. Aquatic organisms are used to or have the habit of a certain range of temperatures in water body where they live. A sudden marked change in the temperature would be dangerous for them or affecting their breeding. The eggs and larvae of various animals are particularly prone to temperature changes. Mineral riches in soil. The outermost layer of our earth is called the crust, and the minerals found in this layer supply a variety of nutrients to life forms. Over long periods of time, thousands and millions of years, the rocks at or near the surface of the earth broke down by various chemical or physical or biological processes. The end product of this breaking down is a fine particles of soil. Instead of earth, that should be are the fine particles of soil. Factors that help in weathering. So weathering is the process in which a rocks gets converted into fine particles of soil. The factors are, first factor is sun. The sun heats up the rocks during the day and from that they expand. At night, these rocks cool down and contract. So from the expansion and contraction, there may be small cracks between them. Since all parts of the rock do not expand and contract at the same time because they have different kinds of minerals, this results in the formation of cracks, and ultimately the huge rocks break up into small pieces. Second is water. Water could get into the cracks formed by the sun in the rocks, and if this water freezes, it would cause the cracks to widen, and the rock will break more or have more cracks will be formed. Flowing water wears away even hard rocks over long periods of time. Fast flowing water often carries big and small particles of rocks downstream. These rocks rub against other rocks and result erosion, causes the rocks to wear away into smaller and smaller particles. The water then takes these particles along with it and deposits it further down its path. Wind. The wind also carries sand from one place to other like water does. Why only sand? Because sand is lighter than other different types of soils. Next is living organisms. While lichens grow, they release certain substances that cause the rock surface to powder down and form a thin layer of soil. Other small plants like moss are able to grow on the surface now and they cause the rocks to break up further. The roots of big trees sometimes go into the cracks in the rocks, and as the roots grow, because the crack is forced bigger. Soil. Humus. Soil contains bits of decayed living organisms called humus. Talking about plants, the nutrient content of soil, the amount of humus present in it, and the depth of the soil are some of the factors that decide which plant will thrive on that soil. So, the type of soil, the average size of particles found in it, and the quality of soil is determined by the amount of humus and microscopic organisms present in it. Humus is a major factor in deciding the soil structure because it causes the soil to become more porous or with holes and allow water to seep in and air to go deep underground. Soil pollution. So as we studied in the last slide, humus, the topmost layer of the soil that contains humus and living organisms in addition to soil particles is called the topsoil. So soil pollution, the removal of useful components from the soil, removal of useful components and addition of other substances which are not useful adversely affect the fertility of the soil and kill the diversity of organisms that live in it. This is called soil pollution. Coming to soil erosion, the roots of plants have an important role in preventing the soil erosion. They hold the soil and prevent it from eroding. The large scale deforestation that is happening all over the world not only destroys biodiversity but also causes soil erosion. So here we can see in this picture that this tree is holding the this tree is an old tree we can see and is there here from many years and it has expanded its roots so deep in the ground that it is holding the surrounding soil very firmly. So we can write it or we can write and give or it is firm that this soil will not erode very easily. Why? Because the tree is holding it very firmly. Topsoil that is bare of vegetation is likely to remove very quickly, and this is accelerated in hilly or mountainous regions. Why? Because they have slanting slopes. Now coming to biogeochemical cycles. A constant interaction in the biotic means living natural resources and abiotic non-living natural resources or components of the biosphere make it a dynamic but stable system. This interaction consists of a transfer of matter and energy between the different components of the biosphere. So we have three cycles here: water cycle, nitrogen cycle, and the carbon cycle. Greenhouse effect. While studying the greenhouse effect, we also have oxygen cycle. So let's see. Coming to first one, which is water cycle. The whole process in which water evaporates and falls on the land as rain and later flows back into the sea via rivers is known as the water cycle. All the water that falls on the land does not immediately flow back into the sea. Some of it seeps into the soil and some becomes and the other becomes part of the underground reservoir of fresh water. Some of this underground water finds its way to the surface through springs, or we bring it to the surface for our use through wells or tube wells. Water is also used by terrestrial animals and plants for various life processes. So here is a picture of the water cycle. So as we saw in the last few slides also, first is evaporation, then condensation, then precipitation, and after precipitation, the water will again collect, which is known as collection, and again evaporation. The same cycle goes on. Now coming to nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen gas makes up 78% of our atmosphere, and nitrogen is also a part of many molecules essential to life, like proteins, nucleic acids such as DNA and RNA, and some vitamins. Nitrogen is found in other biological important compounds such as alkaloids and urea. These nitrogen fixing bacteria may be free living or associated with some species of dicots plants. So we have some nitrogen fixing bacteria in the roots of plants. So these may be free living or associated with some species of dicot plants. What are dicot plants? Plants having two cotyledons in their seeds. Most commonly, the nitrogen fixing bacteria are found in the roots of legumes, the plants which give us pulses generally, in special structures called root nodules. Other than these bacteria, the only other manner in which nitrogen molecule is converted to nitrates and nitrites is by a physical process. During lightning, the high temperature and pressures created in the air convert nitrogen into oxides of nitrogen. These oxides dissolve in water to give nitric and nitrous acids and fall on the land along with rain. These are then utilized by various life forms. Plants generally take up nitrates and nitrites and convert them into amino acids which are used to make proteins. Some other biochemical pathways are used to make the other complex compounds which contain nitrogen. These protein and other complex compounds are subsequently consumed by animals. Once the animal or plant dies, other bacteria in the soil converts the various compounds of nitrogen back into nitrites and nitrates. A different type of bacteria converts the nitrates and nitrites into elemental nitrogen. So when the plants have nitrogen or they convert nitrogen, the plants are eaten by animals, and when the animals or the plant itself dies, they again give nitrogen out in any form it may be, right? So this is the cycle of nitrogen which continues. Yeah, so this NO2 means nitrogen in the atmosphere. So we can see here that this is a plant and it has bacteria. It is rhizobium here, and then this rhizobium is converting the nitrogen into atmospheric nitrogen, and also nitrous oxide present in the soil is getting converted into nitrogen. And the plants are eaten by cattle or any other animal. So this they are in the ammonium form, and then they form nitrite, and then they form nitrate. And nitrate plants contain nitrate. So plants, they'll eat again and again, form ammonium. Same process. Uses of carbon. In elemental form as diamonds and graphite, carbon is used in elemental form as diamonds and graphite. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere as carbonate and hydrogen carbonate salts in various minerals. The endoskeletons and exoskeletons of various animals are also formed from carbonate salts. Now coming to the carbon cycle. Carbon is incorporated into life forms through the basic process of photosynthesis, which is performed in the presence of sunlight by all life forms that contain chlorophyll, means only green plants. If we talk about plants, they're only green plants. This process converts carbon dioxide from the atmosphere or dissolved in water into glucose molecules. The carbon dioxide dissolved in water or the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is converted into glucose molecules. These glucose molecules are either converted into other substances or used to provide energy for the synthesis of other biological important molecules. The utilization of glucose to provide energy to living things involves the process of respiration, in which oxygen may or may not be used to convert glucose back into carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide then goes back into the atmosphere. Another process that adds to the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is the process of combustion, where fuels are burned to provide energy for various needs like heating, cooking, transportation, and industrial processes. In fact, the percentage of carbon dioxide in atmosphere is said to have doubled since the industrial revolution when human beings started burning fossil fuels on a very large scale. So this is the carbon cycle, and we can see here that limestone has carbonates in water, and coal has organic compounds as in plants, and organic compounds in animals too. We burn petroleum and form carbon dioxide in the air. Inorganic carbonates are present in the shells, as we had studied in the last slide. So, from the industrial revolution, the carbon cycle or the carbon dioxide in the air has doubled. Greenhouse effect. Some gases prevent the escape of heat from the earth. An increase in the percentage of such gases in the atmosphere would cause the average temperature to increase and worldwide, and this is called the greenhouse effect. Carbon dioxide is one of the greenhouse gases. An increase in the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere would cause more heat to be retained by the atmosphere. Why more heat? Because when there is a layer, if there are more gases, they will absorb more heat from the sun, and when they absorb more heat, they'll also reflect more heat to the earth. Oxygen cycle. The cycle that maintains the level of oxygen in the atmosphere is known as oxygen cycle. Oxygen from the atmosphere is used up in three processes, namely combustion, respiration, and the formation of oxides of nitrogen. Oxygen is returned to the atmosphere in only one major process, that is photosynthesis. Why? Because most of the living organisms release carbon dioxide and take in oxygen, but whereas plants do photosynthesis in which they release oxygen. And this forms the broad outline of oxygen cycle in nature. Sorry, yeah. So we can see here that this is the oxygen cycle, and carbon dioxide is taken in through photosynthesis and oxygen is given out. C6H12O6 is the chemical name for glucose. Then Organic molecules such as glucose are again used for respiration and they release carbon dioxide. Ozone layer, unlike the normal diatomic molecule of oxygen, diatomic, two atoms. Diatomic molecule of oxygen, ozone is poisonous, and we are lucky that it is not stable nearer to the earth. Elemental oxygen is normally found in the form of diatomic molecule. Elemental oxygen means which we have around us. That oxygen is found usually in a diatomic molecule, means it has two atoms in its one molecule. However, in the upper reaches of the atmosphere, a molecule containing three atoms of oxygen is found. This would mean a formula of O3, and this is called ozone. So, what are its functions? Firstly, it absorbs harmful radiations from the sun. This prevents those harmful radiations from reaching the surface of the earth where they may damage many forms of life. Danger to the atmosphere or to the ozone layer. Various non-made or man-made compounds like CFS, carbon compounds having both fluorine and chlorine, which are very stable and not degraded by biological processes, were found to persist in the atmosphere. This resulted in the reduction of ozone layer, and recently they have discovered a hole in the ozone layer above Antarctica. So this is the picture of the hole in the ozone layer in Antarctica. Factfolio. Some forms of life, especially bacteria, are poisoned by elemental oxygen. Means how we humans, for example, need O2 or diatomic molecule of oxygen for breathing. Bacteria means bacteria get poisonous from that oxygen. We human beings get poisoned from O3 or ozone layer inhaling, right? But they get poisoned from O2 inhaling or diatomic molecule of oxygen. In fact, even the processes of nitrogen fixing bacteria does not take place in the presence of oxygen. Thank you.